Hey, I think it worked.
Hey, what's going on?
Yeah, it looks like that countdown is kind of fun. It's kind of funny because we couldn't speak during that 2 minutes. It was a lot of twiddling thumbs, but we'll tighten
Well,
that up.
I made good use of my time.
Yeah, I used the restroom. Well, Pablo, you want to get us started?
Absolutely. How are you doing, Dr. Perin?
I'm doing pretty well, Pablo. How are you doing?
I'm doing terrific. Thank you. Welcome everybody to the Living Well show with Dr. Perin. Dr. Perin is a psychologist practicing from the state of Ohio. In this program, we discuss how to live a meaningful and fulfilling life. We are broadcasting live from X and from YouTube. This show comes alive with the participation of our audience, that is you guys listening. We would love to hear your thoughts and questions on the live chat on either one of these platforms. How are you doing, Dr. Perin?
I'm doing great. I want to say a few words about our sponsor today, the Hopewell Institute. The Hopewell Institute is a psychology media entertainment company. They make sure that verbal diarrhea. They make sure good psychological conversation like this can be brought to you, the audience. There are a couple of advances in the Hopewell Institute. We found a platform at skool.com where some coursework is starting to come up. It is a work in progress, but we're really excited to bring some programming to you guys. In the meantime, go to www.thehopewellinstitute.com, join our newsletter, be one of the first to find out what cool stuff is coming down the pipes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That is exciting. That is good to know for everybody.
Yeah.
Definitely follow the link follow the QR code right over by Dr. Perin's head to check out our Patreon. We definitely welcome any kind of donation to keep the show going. In the meantime, thank you to the Hopewell Institute for making this possible. Let's dive right in. What are we talking about today, Dr. Perin?
Well, over the last week, there have been some conversations about high agency clients coming to psychotherapy. High agency is, people who are very highly motivated, very, very skillful. I think about really early on in my clinical training when I started working with veterans, there was a distinct personality shift, I think, from going from community mental health to the VA, where my typical patient albeit, mood disorder, PTSD, moral injury, very serious mental health issues, are the kind of person who could do anything. Like you give them a new job, they will be the top performer in that field within like a month, within or 3 months. These are your Army Rangers, your SF guys, Marines, people where if you put them to a task, they will go and they will like charge and take that task. The thing is that they are different therapy clients. So I want to speak a little bit more about these high agency individuals, high agency clients. These are people who are just high speed, high motivated. They're your CEOs. They're your just like very skillful individuals. And I want to talk a little bit about what psychotherapy looks like with them and what makes them different from not so much low agency people, but lower agency people.
Okay. So you kind of established what a high agency client would be. How do you distinguish them? How do you identify them? What are the traits that kind of make them? Can you give me like 5 key traits that make them stand out?
Off the top of my head, I don't know if I could come up with 5 and do it justice, but I think that one of the key features is they are very self-motivated people with a very high locus of control. And what I mean by that is they believe that things succeed or fail based off of their own efforts. There are some people where they might have an external locus of control, and they'll say, the reason I'm not successful is because of the economy, or, the reason why I didn't get a job is because the other political party, or whatever it might be, that they externalize the reasons that things are going on. High agency people often have that very high internal locus of control. If there's a problem, they believe it's because of them or it's up to them to change it. And so the motivation, I think, is different.
Interesting. So generally would be people that have a level of self-awareness, and a desire to already kind of commit to the change.
That's kind of it's kind of hard to say self-awareness, because I think even some of these high motivated people, they have blind spots. We all have blind spots. I mean, there are some things that maybe they get a tunnel vision. They're attacking something like a dog with a bone. There could be something that's obvious to you or I, or even a stranger on the street, but it's just in their blind spot. They don't see it. And when you tell them about it, they might have oh my God, of course it's there. But they're just focused. They're so hyper focused. They're so in their lane that they might be missing some of the obvious. So I think it's less about that they're more self-aware. I think it's more that they're self-motivated. When they have a goal, they focus on it, and they will keep going back to the drawing board and come up with new solutions, new approaches until they reach their goal. It's a tenacity thing.
Mm-hmm. And can this be maybe translated or turned into maybe stubbornness? So like with that hyper focus, of like, no, this is what I'm focusing on.
Well, I guess these people tend to come across as stubborn, also as really highly independent. The thing is that it's more closely related to a sense of agreeableness. Like I think some of these really high agency people, they aren't willing to just take the first no or just get pushback. They will keep at something. And if someone tells them no, sometimes they will work twice as hard. I used to joke in college, one of the biggest jokes was if anybody wanted me to do something, they'd say, "You won't. Oh, get an A on that paper. You can't do it." Right? Sell that to a guy for like a 300% markup. You can't do it. Oh, the hell I won't. And then I will go and I will do that. Right? So I think it's more of that I really think it's a matter of that like disagreeableness. It's like, I don't care what you say. I don't care what you say that I can't do. I want to do this and I'm going to pursue it. I don't know if that made sense, but
yeah, no, it totally does. And so how how much easier or difficult, I don't know if, or not difficult, but harder would be to work with someone high with that is high agency?
I think they have some advantages and disadvantages. I actually think it's quite nice. Every once in a while, not always, I'll get a new client who comes in and they'll have a workbook, right? They'll have their like legal pad or notebook, and they're ready to go. They're saying, "What's my goals? Like, what am I working on? What do I need to be doing?" And part of the work is having them put the pen down and having like a real conversation. But that usually determines, like, I'm going to be highly motivated. If you tell me to do something, I'm going to do it. The difficulty there is that it actually means that we have to be more conscious of not giving them tasks, not telling them what we think they should do. Part of the work is in relaxing that hyper rigidity, that inflexibility.
Mm.
Sometimes though, it is a matter of, hey, here is explicitly the one thing you need to work on. Do reps of this, right? Do this a couple of times and get better at it, and then when we meet again, we're going to see where you are, or we're going to make another micro adjustment, right? If
Yeah,
I
well,
make
I
a
was
comment like that, they will do the homework.
exactly, I was gonna say, I mean, if you play into that strength, which is that hyper focus,
Hmm.
instead of maybe trying to circumvent it, just use it to their advantage. Be like, okay, we're gonna make very set, kind of almost like bullet points, right? I mean, I work great with bullet points. You give me bullet points, you give me a list of things, and I'll get
Hmm.
it done one
Oh
by
yeah,
one.
give me a pilot's checklist. Yeah, I'll crush it. But here's the thing: when you start a course of therapy with a high agency individual, if you don't give them tasks like, specifically try this out, some of it's going to work, some of it won't. Let's go back to the drawing board and let's refine it over time. If you don't give them that, they might not come back, because that's their mode of operations. Give me tasks, give me executables, give me a pilot's checklist. I'll crush it. But they're already good at that. That's not their problem. In fact, sometimes they will say, what more do I need to do to finally be able to relax? Maybe it's not a matter of doing something more. Maybe it's a matter of starting to take some things away, or to release your grip on something. Now, you tell that to a high agency person, they can tense up because they say, no, I need that. I need that to be successful, or that is part of my routine that I use to achieve success. In which case, the conversation really turns to, we got to burn cleaner fuel. Some of this is your motivation. Some of this is who you are. Some of this is your value system. We don't want to take away the high standards, but we do want to create these conditions for one to be able to pivot, to be flexible, to relax, to put their guard down, to be able to put 80% into something that only needs 80%, to only put 30% into something that only needs 30%. It's more of a refinement process. We can do anything, we can't do everything. If you can knock 7 of the 10 goals out and focus on 3, attack those 3 with 110% effort. But you have to refine that, and it's usually based off of one's own value system. They don't often know that. They want to do everything, and they want to execute at everything at the highest level all the time. And that even includes new things. Someone comes up and invites them to a new pickleball league. They're going to start learning how to become a pro pickleball player, when that's not really the best use of their time. That's like 10th or 12th in orders of importance. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but it's often not a matter of, we need to knock more tasks off. It's about, how do we approach these tasks differently? How do we create a little bit more cognitive flexibility? How do we make sure that the things that we are putting most of our effort into are congruent with our individual personal value system?
So what you're saying is that also part of the therapy to these people, these kind of people, is to, you know maybe get them out of their own, super hyper focus constraints, which, as much as it can be a strength, it can also become almost like a hindrance for being open to other things, or to or to do a different kind of progress? Is that more or less?
Uh, I think sometimes it's a matter of choosing what are the things that are worth putting that effort into. See, a lot of times people neglect something that's very important. Often relationships. I think relationships is one of the first things that people put on the back burner in order to achieve success. And let's say they grind it out. They grind out and they make $1 million. Took them a year, just head down in doing it. Sometimes they've really compromised relationships during that time. They are unhappy. They are unfulfilled. They're struggling. Their spouses are unhappy. Their spouses are unfulfilled, or something of that nature. In order for them to put their focus back onto what's important to them, maybe it's the relationships they neglected, they have to take focus off some other things. The thing is if they came from a place of insecurity and they now have financial freedom and safety, the idea of changing course can be terrifying. So if I say, hey, be able to take 20% off the professional focus and put that 20% back into your marriage or your children who you've been neglecting over the last couple of years, they have a hard time doing it. They think they're going to lose their success. In fact, a lot of people, after they make their first $1 million, they get into kind of a protective mode and they stop doing even the things that made them that $1 million. So it's really a matter of, we need to get back into what is really important to you right here and right now. And how are you making sure that your actions are aligned with that? And to triage, like rank order. What is the most important thing to you right now? 1, 2, 3, and 4. And make sure that your behavior reflects that. Make sure your actions are reflecting that matter of importance, because it can sometimes change. Maybe it's business. And business changes with family. Suddenly it's my wife and my children are the most important. Great. You have to take that from somewhere. How do you do that? I don't know
So
if that
once
makes any sense.
yeah, so once you have identified this trait in a client, um how can a client derail their progress through, whilst, retaining that hyper focus that we talk about?
I I think one of the common barriers that I see is after the newbie gains, sort of like the initial progress. Let's say they come to therapy, we work together for about a month, 2, 3 months. After about 3 months, they can be like, all right, I know what I need to do. I'm just going to put my head down and I'm going to grind at this for 6 months and I'll give you a call and I'll let you know how it is.
I see.
Um, that's not always my professional recommendation. I want to reflect that that is a pattern, right? That is actually the pattern that has made them successful. You give me an inch, I'm going to be able to take that a mile. You give me a paper clip and a rubber band, I'll build a supermarket in the woods. And part of this, you actually need to come back and let's work through this, right? I've made reflections with that kind of attitude about other relationships in their life. So maybe they're married or maybe they have children. And I would wonder if this is how you're treating this relationship. Is this ways that you've maybe spoken to your spouse? All right, I know what I need to do. I'm just going to, duck out and do my own thing for a couple months and I'll come back to you and let you know how it is.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be surprised at how much that can slap somebody in the face. And they go, oh gosh, that is maybe how I relate to this person or that person or whatever. And we bring it back and we fold it back. Sometimes it's a matter of, hey, let's give it a shot. Maybe that is all you need. You know the reps. Let's take a month, do the reps for a month and come back. And sometimes they'll come back and say, I'm good. All of my problems are solved. No, that never happens. They come back and they say a lot of things helped, some things didn't. And then here's this third thing that I hadn't considered. And that third thing becomes the therapy. This is the pattern. This is what you've been doing. This is how it's shown up in your life forever. And this is the course it takes to change that.
Mm-hmm. And so do you think that high agency people, tend to know or believe that they have just full control of their life, and they go, okay, I just need to address this one thing. Once we address that one thing, I'm good. Thank you so much. I'll get back to you whenever another thing comes up. Is that more or less how it goes?
Oh yeah. Well, that's the high locus of control. You have told me the one thing that I didn't know. now that I know it, I am unencumbered. But that's not true. That one thing that I might have reflected is maybe one piece of a bigger whole. And we
Mhm.
come back and we have to go through a couple pieces of the puzzle before we start seeing what picture is showing up. And as we get a better idea of the picture, then we can maybe put some pieces in together. But that takes time.
Mhm.
But also this matter of changing, because there's really a limit to how much the human brain physically can change. There's a limit to how much a human being can change. And some of these high agency people, they'll take that grinding approach. I'm just going to put more effort into it and I'm going to change faster and quicker. But when it comes to the unconscious, when it comes to, processes, compulsions, urges, sensations, not all of that is entirely in our conscious awareness. And maybe this is something that we have to come back to over and over and over again before we actually see real change.
Yeah, it sounds to me like those decisions of, okay, now I have the answer. You told me what I need to know. Now I can, work on that and then move on. I think that to me sounds like it's very surface level, right?
Mhm.
And maybe just this these traits maybe prevent them from really uh being or opening themselves to really dig down and to really go into what the source is, right? Because that's what it would be in the long term is, okay, no, it doesn't, therapy doesn't work. It's not a band-aid, right? We're not gonna just slap a band-aid and it's not gonna go away just like that. You have to work on it, right? We've talked about this in previous
Mhm.
episodes, where it's a progress, and you need to, there's progress throughout the
Well,
process through an extended periods of time.
got to
But
take the band-aid off. You got to
um,
sometimes cut out the infection. You got to
yeah,
put some rubbing alcohol on it, stings. And then you got to wrap it up again so that it can heal right. Some people just say, "Oh, you gave me the band-aid, I'm good. Let's go."
yeah. So you as a therapist, what is how do you change your approach when dealing with a high agency person?
Well, for the first thing is that I become very conscious about um the direction that the therapy is steering. If it's steering to I just need to do more, I just need to do more, I just need to do more, I need to reflect that, right? The I need to make conscious the awareness that it is that desire. I need to do more, I need to do more, I need to do more, which is perhaps the pervasive pattern. And again, I find that the solution isn't to do more, it's to be more efficient. It is to prioritize, it's to burn cleaner fuel, it's to triage. And again, a lot of people they try to do everything all at once. I feel like I'm losing my point here, but
No, and but how do they respond? How do a client like this usually responds to that directive? Are they open to it, or are they, more like pushback? Like, no, 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 I got this. Just tell me how to do it, but I got this.
well, the pushback goes to their value system of self-improvement and of productivity. Like there's a reason that they're high agency in the first place. Like they do believe that they need to be doing more and they do believe that it's up to them. The thing is that didn't happen in a vacuum. And for us to kind of go back and see where some of these early rules of the world took root, we're going to have to loosen the rigidity of some of these things. So you get like the super stoics, right? The like I can't like I just live in a Spartan room with a bed and a laptop and I just wake up and I do my work and I drink my protein shakes and I go to sleep, right? Maybe that person is going to have some success, but they're going to be quite miserable. And the maybe they hit success, they're going to still try to live that way. I've met more than my fair share of millionaires who live in the same house, drive the same car, and wear the same clothes that they did before they made money. And that's fine. But some of them also have the same anxiety, the same interpersonal issues, the same fear of insecurity, or the fear that they're going to lose it and they have to start all the way over from scratch again. And some of these need to be broken into tiny, tiny pieces because they're motivated by fear. They're not motivated by their value system. They're not motivated by what they actually want to build and do. And sometimes that requires going back to where they learned that lesson in the first place. Maybe it was a breakup. Maybe it was a really bad, messy breakup where they were dumped and they said, "Oh, I'll show them." Maybe it was a spouse. Maybe it was a parent. Maybe it was an early mentor, like a coach.
Have you seen that movie Hitch with Will Smith? That's
Ages
literally it's
ago.
what it is. It's what it is. He goes to this really bad messy breakup at the beginning of the film, and he's this
Is that how
lanky,
he became a dating coach?
nerdy dude. Yeah, and then he just totally shuts himself off and
Mhm.
and swears and makes an oath to himself that he will never gonna put himself in that position, and then he just becomes extremely successful in high agency. It's just go 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 go, but and he's really good at telling everybody else how to do the thing, but he's not doing the thing himself until and then he comes into this is literally what you're talking about, which is great. I don't know, you know
I
me, man.
saw
I
the
always
movie
like
ages
I
ago. I got to
yeah,
rewatch it now. That's got Kevin James. Was it Kevin James,
yeah, Will
the
Smith,
person he
Kevin
was working with?
James,
Yeah, that was a
and
funny movie.
oh my god, and Eva Mendes,
Well, I know we're
really good
kind of
movie.
joking about it, but like realistically, how many of your biggest breakthroughs and personal development moments happened because of a woman? I can count on both of my hands how many of my biggest breakthroughs and moments of maturity and areas of growth came directly from trying to navigate romance, trying to navigate dating. Trying to navigate dating in your teens, let alone your 20s, can put a chip on somebody's shoulder, a chip on
Hmm.
somebody's shoulder that can persist for decades.
Hmm.
Uh, the first girl that told you that you were ugly or stupid or not worth dating, even if you were 10, 12, 13 years old, that can stick with you for
Hmm.
decades.
Hmm.
And it can motivate people into entire career paths. No. We joke, but yes. And it's not just a male gender thing. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. How many times have women grown and gone through big growing processes because of romance? The thing is, it's not just early romantic interests. It's very often parents. We see this a lot with immigrants to the United States, people who come from cultures that are high agency. I think of the Indian population. I think of a lot of Asian populations, like Chinese culture, Japanese culture. Judaism, education is such a big part of their religious practice that they have to study for their coming of age ceremonies when they're 13 years old. The lessons that they learn to perform at a professional level at such a young age, they replicate and then see more success in their academics and then their professional life. Like it is built into their cultural traditions. Um, I lost my train of thought. I was going somewhere with this, but forgot where.
No, it's I'm sure it'll come back. It's all related. It's all related, and it's all we're
Oh, it's
exploring.
instilled. It's culturally, and sometimes it can be culturally instilled into
Yeah.
people. I come from farmer stock. So in the Midwest, the farmer culture is you wake up at the crack of dawn and you don't eat until you get a certain amount of work done. Like that's just built into our like culture. How do you think that shows up in college? How do you think that shows up in one's first professional job when they're 18 years old? My first real job was detasseling corn, which is very hard, very hard farm work. But the kind of dedication, the kind of what's the word I'm looking for? The resilience that you develop doing that kind of hard labor work can transfer into other jobs. And I don't know. I think it's this high agency part when they're learned. I can remember when I was in high school and doing some of these early jobs, right? I was not the most professional kid in the world. I got yelled at. I had adults telling me that I could shape up and improve my behavior. That made me anxious. That made me unconscious. Some of these rules could seep in as early as our first careers, our first jobs, let alone our first romances. By the time we're 40 and millionaires, we can have some pretty big complexes that have been around for a while.
So, do you address this with your clients when once you identify it? How is that approach? Do you say, "Hey, listen"? you are a high agency person, and I've identified these traits on you, or did you just not address it at all and kind of just do the silent attack and kind of little by little, take that apart, and dig in? What's that approach there?
I don't like to work too hard. If I get completely stuck in a therapy session, I like to default to the empty chair technique. Um, get a chair for somebody who told you that you weren't shit. Get a chair for somebody who taught you that lesson, right? Somebody might say a very callous or unemotional statement like, well, Talladega Nights with Ricky Bobby. If you're not first, you're last, right? So if a patient said that to me unironically, I got to win. If you're not first, you're last. Get a chair for the person who taught you that lesson. You get to see them freak out a little bit because their mind's going to go right to it. Maybe it was their I don't know if there's high school NASCAR, but let's just say it's a high school NASCAR club, and their high school NASCAR coach was the one that's like, if you're not first, you're last. If you're not first, you're last. And he was just a big hard ass. He knows that he's now going to have to confront an earlier, sometimes emotional relationship, and there's going to be real fear on their face because they don't know where they're going to go. They don't know what's going to come out of this encounter. I don't either. It's not for me. I didn't live it. I just help them understand it. And sometimes they'll say, I actually got this lesson after losing. I got this lesson after my coach tore me a new asshole. And like, he really gave it to me. And he cut me from the team, right? And I had to, get into a new sport the next season, but I was embarrassed. Now I have a chip on my shoulder, right? I don't know what it is. They tell me. And then they process it. Or, we can relive it. We can act it out. We can do a surplus reality. We can have a conversation with their 2025 self where they give them the updated lesson. Like, you don't have to do this. It's coming in second doesn't make me less than. It just means that I have more to learn before my next competition. It doesn't mean that I'm bad. Other people who don't win aren't less than. Just because I beat the guy doesn't mean that he doesn't deserve humanity, right? These are new lessons that come from them, that come from their value system, that they get to explore or navigate without me
So,
telling them.
how do you avoid, and just once when you're in session with a high agency person, how do you avoid power struggles? Because I'm sure that's got to come up soon, at some point,
Mm-hmm.
right? The no, this is not what we're talking here. This is not what I came here for. This is what I came here for. Is what we're going to talk about. And does that happen?
Oh, I love them. It's my favorite. In fact, I genuinely think that this is one of the reasons why I've demonstrated an enormous amount of resilience in my profession, where many of my peers have burnt out or have moved on to teaching. I love it. The locking of horns, the actual wrestling, the actual like confrontation and struggle. I love it. It's not really my job to coerce them or convince them. It's my job to put them in a state where they're agitated just enough that they are wrestling. So for me, I sit back and I smile and I'm like, hooray, rigorous debate. We're confronting some deeply held beliefs that are not entirely accurate or certainly not helpful. They might be like really agitated, but it's really funny because to an outside observer, it might look like we're fighting, not like I'm arguing with them or anything, but there might be a level of agitation, like two people with locked horns in the session. But at the end of the session, the patient's going to go, "Thanks, doc. That was great. Same time next week." Because they themselves like that. They are wrestling. That's that high locus of control. When there is something that they want to do and is not easy for them, they get that cognitive dissonance. They get that friction, but that friction motivates them. It pushes them. They say, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna beat it, right? So that can show up in the therapy room. Now, I think this is where some therapists who maybe are ill-equipped or ill prepared to work with high agency clients, they might think that's resistance or that's arguing or that's fighting, and they themselves might get agitated and feel like they have to push their opinion I don't. I just continue to ask clarifying questions or help them reflect on the things that they're saying. They just push back and they argue and they try to yeah but it. The thing is that that is a process of learning for high agency people. You need to understand, or therapists need to understand, that it's not fun per se, but it's stimulating for them, and they thrive off of that stimulation. If I'm making any sense, I like.
Yeah.
I'll
And
look at
how,
Michael Jordan for an example, because he would shoot hoops for 8 hours a day for like 6 months straight just to make a fraction of a percentage of improvement. He was that dedicated.
I am glad that you mentioned that, because I was just going to ask you, like, how, that refinement, how do you help a client refine that progress, or that pursuit of addressing whatever it is they're addressing, without, I don't know, burning out, or just, become, or maybe thinking that this is just too much fighting or whatever.
I do it with them. I actually don't have the answers. I wish I did. I wish I was so good at therapy. I like to think I'm pretty good. I can't quite blow pixie dust yet and make someone's problems go away. But I genuinely will wrestle with it with them. So they'll be upset, and I'll tell them I don't know either. And if they say, well, I'm going to try this, and I'll go, okay. And they'll say, will it work? I don't know, but let's try it. And when we meet again, we'll go back to the drawing board and we'll continue to refine. It's not that I'm so much better at this process than my patients are. It's just I'm going to do it with them. I'm going to figure it out with them. And I'm going to help them identify what strategies work the best, which strategies could maybe be sharpened or improved. And sometimes we just spark that creativity and spontaneity. Let's just try something new. Let's just try something random. Let's throw something at the board and see what sticks.
Hey,
Because that's
speaking
also
of
what I'm training.
Speaking of sharpening, your camera's a little out of focus.
Is it?
Yeah, it's focusing on your mic. There you go. Bring it back. There you go.
I have it set up to where it is focused on whatever's in the middle, so it shouldn't do that.
Oh, perfect. Now I see you nice and crisp. You're handsome, man. I want to see your face, not blurry. So how does a breakthrough, or how do breakthroughs for high agency clients look like? And how can they be different from a non high agency person?
I think you see the difference in their distress. You see really high agency people, they can be a little tight. They can be a little tightly wound. And you see the unwinding slowly without the decrease in performance. In fact, sometimes you see an increase in performance. They're used to sprinting, and you tell them slow down to a jog, and then they find out they can go further. They can go so much further that suddenly they're running marathons. They're accomplishing so much more, and they're able to keep kind of a steady, consistent effort. And they know when to stop, right? Because some of them are married. And the ones who aren't married, they might say, I'm looking for marriage and I want to actually do this in a healthy way, as opposed to, gosh, I hear stories out in like LA and New York where, the dating scene of the hyper successful is you have a date for breakfast, you have a date for lunch, and you have a date for dinner, and it's a different woman for each one. And you do that. Oh, that's their numbers game. You just go out on enough dates, and eventually you're going to meet the right one. And part of the work is like, let's slow this process down a little bit. What are you actually trying to do? How much effort do you want to put into it? This is a more sustainable effort if you're also trying to accomplish this goal, that goal, and the other. It's really just a matter of, back to this idea of triaging, or making sure that your behaviors are aligned with your value system. You can't do everything. You can do anything, but you can't do everything. Find out the ones that you really want to focus on. I don't know. I hope I'm making sense.
Yeah, definitely. It's very interesting. So can these breakthroughs, or how do these breakthroughs in therapy translate or spill over into their leadership, the relationships, into their daily lives?
Well, They usually tell me that their relationships are better. And I phrase it this way because it's very subjective, right? They might say, I'm fighting less with my wife. Or, my husband has more like more of a light spirit around the home. Um, it might be a matter of I'm actually seeing it in my mentorships, like my subordinates or my middle managers are suddenly they're coming to me more, or they're feeling a little safer sharing their losses with me. Or, I actually was invited to the barbecue this week instead of, X, Y, and Z. It's so personal and it's so subjective. It's impossible for me to tell them this is what you're going to see when you practice this. It's going to be when you see this, you're going to notice some relationships are improving. And they'll say, how? We don't know. Let's figure it out. And they'll tell me. And that's when I write it down. I'll know it's going to be maybe in the realm of relationships or interpersonal effectiveness, but we won't know exactly how until they give the feedback. Sometimes it might just be their kids. I'm finally spending more time with my kids, and because I have my dedicated special playtime with my kid, I can now work for 12 hours straight because I'm energized by feeling genuinely connected and meaningfully involved in my relationship with my child. So yeah, I wish I could give a more concrete answer, but without getting into specifics. It's always very personal, the the progress towards goals.
Hmm. No, that's great. So, how to everyday, I think normal is the wrong word. How to just everyday people that are not particularly high agency or considered like that, what can they take away from someone like this, and how their breakthroughs in therapy can be applied to just normal to everyday life? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I have a couple answers for this. I think first and foremost, recognize that the grass isn't always greener. Um, some people have the exact same anxiety, the exact same depression, the exact same traumas, the exact same issues. Our parents die, our siblings come ill, our children get injured, right? These things happen to everybody, even billionaires and kings. So we tend to look at these people like, oh, they have no trouble or they have no problem. Some of them are suffering deeply, and some of them actually have a lot of pressure on them, even past their success. They have pressure to maintain their success or to keep paying their employees. There's a lot of pain that can come from that. On the other hand, I want people to know that this is a learnable process. You can slide and become a higher agency person, and there are benefits to becoming a higher agency person. But you don't want to go to the extreme. The highest agency people are about as miserable as the lowest agency people, the ones who have such an external locus of control that they say there's no point in trying. The world is going to slap me down. The system is going to stop me. So I'm not even going to try. I think there is a sweet spot. And if you're below that sweet spot, you can maybe it's a matter of just getting 3% better. And if you are pretty far into that extreme, the goal isn't to swing into becoming a low agency person who's just like doing drugs and playing video games all day. But it might just be a matter of let's move 3 degrees in that direction, which is you carve out some time each week to do something that's personally meaningful to you, that charges your batteries. Maybe that's time with your kids. Maybe that is a beer in a video game occasionally. But to create room that you do some things for yourself and for your mental health, not just do, perform, perform, perform. The first rule of high agency is you're not doing enough. The second rule of high agency is keep doing more. I don't know. I hope I'm making sense.
Just the right amount.
Genuinely just the right amount of agency can make you go miles. Like
Yeah.
you can fly. Too much and you get handicapped. Too much and you actually get weighed down.
And how does a high agency person, usually in your experience, come to therapy in the first place? Like, is it do they identify that that they need the therapy? Do they pursue it on their own? Is it like a peer or a colleague that suggested? Is it their personal assistant that go, "Hey, you got therapy today," and they go, "Oh, I didn't know that. I'm just gonna go." What? How does that happen in the first place?
Uh, I think that I have a very unique perspective because I work with veterans. I work with Vietnam vets, Rangers, SF guys. Because I talk about the needs of these like high agency military professionals, I tend to get on the radar of other high agency people, athletes, movie stars, musicians, CEOs, founders, a lot of people have been very successful in business or entrepreneurial pursuits because they recognize some of the traits that I talk about when treating like a army ranger with PTSD. Like if that guy goes to a cognitive behavioral therapist and the cognitive behavioral therapist is just telling him like really basic, just, oh, well, when you even though you're tired, just keep going, right? You tell that to a high agency person, they're going to say, are you an idiot? Like, no, no, no shit. Like, we know, like, of course. Like, I'm an alcoholic. Well, have you tried not drinking alcohol? Of course I've tried not drinking alcohol. It doesn't work. That's why I'm here, right? They can get annoyed and they can get frustrated. So when they know that there are therapists who work with that population, I think they're more likely to reach out with them. Now,
Okay.
if I were to talk to my colleagues, and I do, about, the differences in the populations in which we work, uh, they tell me that some high agency people, they come to therapy they feel a little defeated. They might seem like it's a loss, like I couldn't do it myself. And they are looking for, give me 1 point, give me something in my blind spot, and then it'll be cured right away, and then I'll never come back to therapy. The thing is that once they start seeing the outcomes, the actual like benefits from therapy, they come back. And I don't just mean, oh, hey, you solved my problem, I'm good. They're like, oh gosh, if I could do that in a week, if you can do that in 12 weeks, what else can you do? That self-development part kind of lights up in them. They get excited and they want to stick with it. And then the conversation becomes like, when is therapy when are you good, and when is an appropriate time to graduate? Because some of them will tell me, you have a patient for it until you retire, right? You save a marriage, you make someone $500,000, they will tell you, I will work with you forever. And then you go, okay, maybe, at least until we run out of things to work on. But anyway, that's sort of my long and short of it. I don't think
Yeah,
that
no,
it's a
that's
very
great.
common thing for psychotherapy. Most people who are high agency, they look to self-help books. They look to podcasts. They look
Ah, I
to
see.
they look to things written by like movie stars or heroes of theirs. The thing is they jump from them, right? By the time they've read their 30th self-help book and they're still in pain, they're still suffering, they might begrudgingly say, it's time for me to reach out to somebody who's not just a senior peer. I might want to talk to a professional who knows behavior, who studies the mind, who understands psychology.
Mhm. Interesting. Okay, yeah, that's something I didn't stop to consider, is that yeah, probably a lot of these people, it might be a last resort and they try to go to their favorite motivational speaker
They've
equally.
tried most things by the time they've gotten to me. They've dieted, they've slept, they've tanned their buttholes, they've done all the popular advice that they saw on social media, and it's not enough.
Yeah, they've tried all the
They want
gurus,
more.
all the other high agency people that they know, and they got, okay, if this guy is doing great, he can probably tell me how to fix
I just need to
like
copy his
issues.
morning routine, bro. I just need to copy his morning routine and all my pain will go away. I joke.
Interesting. Okay.
People try that and it can help. And I genuinely do wish, I want everybody, go out there, start exercising, eat cleaner, sleep better, have great sex with someone you love. And if you need more, if you're still in pain, if there's still some developmental needs and growth that you're stuck in trying to do, reach out to a therapist. By the time you come to a therapist, by the time most people reach my consultation room, they've tried advice. They're not looking for advice. They're looking for a journey. They're looking for like, let's figure this out. Let's wrestle with it. Let's actually confront the unknown. It's not advice. It's exploration. It's self-exploration. It's a completely different world.
Gotcha. Interesting. Right on. Listen, we made it through the topic that we were going to talk about. This is great. Perfect timing, because we actually have some questions here that we've gathered.
Yes.
Yeah, and some DMs here. Let's see. So thank you for those who have sent those. All right, right on. Here we go.
Here's a good one from the week before. So like, I have some in stock. So let's go through these, and I'll get the ones I collected from social media.
Sweet. Well, here's a good one from today. I was thinking about this too. Is high agency just another way of saying type A personality? That's literally what I was gonna ask you that.
You know what? It can be. I really think that there is a line of impairment, and I'm gonna use David Goggins. Great guy. He's popular in the high agency sphere. It's, just do work, do more. He wakes up in the crack of dawn. He runs 1,000,000 miles. He does 1,000 push-ups. Right. He in the extreme, when you have just built this rigid and inflexible life, there is no room for alternative perspectives. You cannot sleep an extra hour in the morning. You can't have a slice of cake even on your anniversary. I think about like silly traditions like New Year's, where you have a glass of champagne. Not getting drunk, a glass of champagne. Is that going to destroy your sleep? Maybe. There are some tons of like health experts who are like, one glass of ale destroys your entire sleep, or they'll put on their like wearable and they'll see, oh, my sleep was terrible after that one night of drinking. It's New Year's, bro. It's New Year's. Part of that is celebrating with the people that you love, enjoying the traditions of your culture, and genuinely celebrating the completion of a long, arduous year. You can have one glass of champagne, you can have one poor night of sleep, and gain a great experience, gain a closer relationship with your wife or your best friends, right? Gain a great night with fun stories that you get to tell for the rest of your life. You get 2 David Goggins and that doesn't happen. Like, there's no room for it. You get 2 David Goggins and you're bringing a scale to the restaurant to measure your macros after the waiter has delivered the food. Everyone in the restaurant sees it. It's awkward.
I know last time I brought my scale to the restaurant, it did not go well. That's funny. Wait, okay. So wait, I'm trying to find here another one that I saw earlier, but just real quick, break down that the type. So type A and high agency is not the same. It's what, right? Is it?
There's a level of impairment with the high agency. And I think when you get the rigidity and inflexibility, that's when you get into the type A. Type A people are not flexible. Type A people are not open to alternative perspectives. And very often, once you have reached that type A personality, it's almost more important that you go into therapy to maybe soften that a little bit. But again, it's not to remove the value system, because some of these people, they have very high standards. We don't want to lower the standards. We actually want to increase the effectiveness as they navigate the world and relationships. I know I keep coming back to this relationship element, but this is universal. Whether you are a prince or a pauper, you have relationships. You could have $10 million. If nobody loves you, you are not going to be enjoying that $10 million. If you have impaired relationships, you are not going to enjoy your success. And if you're broke, but you have great relationships, you're winning. I'd rather be broke with healthy relationships than rich with unhealthy relationships, because I've seen them. I've seen these multi-millionaires, and they would cut a check for $1 million to actually have somebody love them. And I wish it were that easy.
Mm-hmm. Right on. Okay, moving on to another. Here's a good one. Can someone be high agency in one part of life but not in another?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh my gosh, yes. But I think this goes back to this idea of triaging or prioritizing your value system. Because I can tell you, some of the richest, most successful people in the world, some area of their life is a shit show. And some of it is by design, like lazy, ineffective, outsourced. I don't want to touch it. Maybe it's cooking, maybe it's cleaning, maybe it's driving, maybe it's something. Uh, I tend to see that that you've probably heard the phrase, how you do one thing is how you do everything. I don't find that entirely true. The thing is that once you reach a certain level of success, you're kind of just disconnected from some of those things. I'm struggling to come up with an example, but like there is a point where you get a little bit disconnected from how do I phrase this? Some of the things, the benefit of becoming rich, in my opinion, is that you can outsource the things that are your weakness or that you're not good at or that takes you 4 times as long as other people so that you can focus more of your energy on the things that you're good at or the things that takes you 4 times faster than other people to accomplish, right? So let's say you've established that and you've done that for a long enough time. You can completely lose touch with the stuff that you've written off that was your weak areas, that's not your area of growth. For me, it's a lot of like organization, like actually putting things in alphabetical order. There's a point where I don't want to do that, or I'll ask somebody else to do it, right? I feel like this is one of those things. When you're high agency, sometimes you look at something and you say the effort to outcome ratio isn't worth it, and you walk away. And
Mhm.
sometimes maybe it's brushing your teeth. Sometimes it's hygiene, right? And that can have other consequences. People don't want to be around them because they smell, but they're
Mhm.
otherwise successful in their field or very competent in their area of expertise. That's just an example, but short answer, no. No, you don't you can be high agency in some areas and not others.
No, and that makes sense, right? I think it comes to mind that phrase. There's a, you know, method to the madness, right? Like, but that implying that there's a madness in there, right? Like
Oh yeah.
this, and you say the method to the madness when there's something that, okay, this is clearly something that is working and it's successful, but there's some craziness going on around, right? That is not entirely, it's not all just the method, clean method. There's a madness going on
E-
on it. And
E-
so it's like,
Elon
how do
Musk
you,
is a good example because
yeah,
he's very successful, but his relationships are a little funny.
right. Um, exactly. Okay, let's see. That's good. That's a good one. Let me see. I have another one here. Um, oh, okay. So does do you ever feel like therapy becomes more of a debate with high agency people? Well, with them, but with high agency.
It can be, but really how much of it is a debate is how much I'm trying to take a stance in something. And it's really not my role as a therapist to take a stance. You really need to be relaxing more. You should take a vacation. Next Saturday, you should clear your schedule. That's not therapy. I don't talk like that. And if I did and they pushed back on it, they would be justified in saying, "No, I can't take Saturday off. I have to work all day Saturday." So I think it's more if they're pushing back on something. Let's say I make an interpretation. I wonder if this is going on, or it seems like this is what you're doing, and they want to push back on it. I'll allow them to, right? That's actually the joy of a transference interpretation. You don't actually have to be correct. You can say, I'm wondering if that means that you're really angry. And they can say, well, I'm not angry, but I am really sad about it. They've corrected me, but in correcting me, they've confronted something. It's not X, it's Y. But by saying it's not X and that it's Y, they are verbalizing it's Y. I'm sad. There's sadness present. This content creates sadness. Great. Now my hypothesis is closer to the truth. And now I get to follow that a little bit more.
I
So
see.
really, it is less about arguing and it's more about please push back. When you push back, I get to triangulate. I get to become more accurate. So I encourage it. There is nothing that makes me more insecure than a patient going, right, Dr. Perin. Oh, you're so right. Yes, right again. Correct. Correct. Ooh, slow down. Get a chair for the brilliant Dr. Perin who's never wrong, right? And then they get to have an interaction with what they think I want to hear, right? I don't know, empty chair technique.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I make sense with this, but I actually really encourage the locking of horns. I love it. I'm not going to be stubborn and push and say, no, person who's actually living the life, you're wrong and I'm right. That's not my approach.
Okay, well, we got back to the locking of horns and the debate. Here's another question that kind of links into that. What's the hardest part of working with someone who always wants to be in control?
Knowing when is the right time to make that reflection, because that will show up in the therapy room. How it might show up is the moment I start saying things, right? Because I'll take a breath. And the moment I give the signal, right? They're going to talk over me. They're going to try to keep going. They're going to try to push me down. It's their therapy. If the therapist and the patient speak at the same time, the patient has right of way. I'm not offended. I will sit back. There is something that they really want to communicate. But if this pattern comes over and over again, and it does feel like a power thing, I might make that reflection. It feels like I'm being shut down, or that you don't want me to speak. But I'm not saying this because I want more space in the therapy. I'm saying that because I wonder if there are other people in your life where this dynamic might be showing up. And very often there's another relationship that they're talking about in the therapy. Maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a spouse, but we can kind of fold it into the spouse. What happens if every time your husband starts speaking, you try to talk over them? I wonder what that's about. What are some power relationships that you see in the real world that we might be playing out in the therapy session? It's not critical. It's not judgmental. I'm not telling them, knock it off and let me speak. I'm curious and I want to explore it because they might not realize that that could be upsetting to people. Am I making any sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Perfect. Thank you. There you go. Okay. Let's see. Got a couple more here that I've filtered through. All right, right on. How do I avoid treating therapy like just another project to conquer? That's a good question. I'm assuming this person identifies himself as high agency.
I believe so. I personally don't see that as too much of a problem. I love seeing it play out in therapy where some people say that I want to win therapy, or, oh, I've stumped you. Does that mean I win? I do see that show up from time to time. But oh gosh, what am I trying to say here? Repeat the question one more time.
How do I avoid treating therapy like just
Treating it like
another
a
project to conquer?
well, I do think that one should approach therapy as, how do I get the most of it? And the thing is that how they approach therapy can also be folded into how they approach other things. I genuinely think it's good to approach therapy as something that can be conquered, not defeated in a week. Aha, I've gotten 4 years of therapy in only 2 weeks. I don't think it works that way. But this idea of, I'm going to be dedicated to this, right? I'm going to show up to my therapist's office for an hour every week for, let's say, 6 months to a year. And I'm going to prioritize that. There is something that I'm going to work on every single week for 6 months to a year, because it sometimes takes 6 months to a year to conquer and complete a goal or to overcome a pattern or a compulsion that has been hamstringing us or holding us back from success or living more meaningfully. So I actually do think it's important, but I think that's the important of having a specific goal. Because even I use my own therapy. I even use my own therapist for an exploratory developmental psychotherapy, but I don't just wing it. I don't just show up and go, "Ooh, I wonder what therapy is going to be like today." I think about it on a weekly basis. What am I working on? What am I struggling with? And then when I meet with my therapist, I'm going to talk about those things and I'm going to keep wrestling with them because I'm anticipating wrestling with it further for the next couple of months or years. Eventually, I'm not going to wrestle with it anymore. I'm going to have an answer, or I'm going to have an insight, or I'm going to know myself. And I'm going to have another goal, or I'm going to update it. I'm going to move the goalpost. But if I don't have any goalpost, then I'm just spinning the wheels, and that's a waste of money and time. I don't want to do
it's
that.
it's not like it's a project to conquer. It's like there are different parts of the project that can be conquered.
Well, you never finish developing. So it's like I'm gonna conquer the world with a recognition that when I get to the other side of the world, the first half of the world is going to be reconquered, and then it's just going to be another process where I have to conquer a new country or a new king or a new just in perpetuity and forever and ever and ever until I die. Because that's being a human, that's being a person. But you can have a good relationship with that. You can have a positive and healthy relationship with that. In fact, there can be a very liberating and exciting part of that. It's a willingness to live and confront life, just full catastrophe, like going straight into it. I don't know if that made sense, but
yes. All right. Right on. Let's see. I
think we could maybe do one more if we have it.
Yeah, I got a good one right here. Can therapy actually increase someone's agency?
Yes. Yes, I actually think that if we were to talk about somebody who has a low agency or an external locus of control, I think psychotherapy is an act of developing more agency and developing more of that internal locus of control, taking a little bit more personal responsibility, but also trusting that if you put effort into it, you're going to get an outcome. It's the same of lifting weights. If somebody told you do barbell curls, an hour a day for a year and you do it, you need to believe that that muscle is going to get bigger. You need to know that you're actually going to see muscle development. And you also have to believe that it's something that you want. It's something that you're actually going to get and like receiving. Once that happens, people will go to the gym every day. People will go to the gym 3 times a day or 3 times a week. I think psychotherapy is no different. You need to look at being a human being as this developmental process.
Excellent. Okay.
Well,
that's all. That's the ones that I saw that were pretty good.
Well, great. It's going to be a good time to start winding down then.
Yeah, right on. Or did you have anything else from anything from the previous week from our either X or DMs that sounded interesting you wanted to address?
Yeah, I just want to call I want to invite high agency people to really change your perspective on what psychotherapy is. If you look at psychotherapy as this process where you have an illness or that you're sick or that you have to be having some mood problems or you're in pits of despair, expand it, grow the definition a little bit. Psychotherapy is a matter of change. Replace the word therapy with the word change. You go to change, you see a changeist, you sit down for your hour of change, and most of the change happens in the week between therapy. That change does not have to be going from sick to healthy. It can be going from point A to point B. Point A is who you are, where you are, and what you're currently doing with the status quo. If you want more than that, if you want to take the status quo from point A to point B, and you know what point B is, and it is something realistic and achievable, like you can do it with personal development, get a therapist. I'm biased towards psychologist. I'm a psychologist. My expertise is in the practice of psychology. A lot of times people want to understand their psychology better, human psychology better, to be the best version of themselves that they can be within reason, without ruining their life. If that is you, find a therapist with a goal. Come up with a goal. Be specific, make it measurable, achievable, realistic, and time oriented. Then reach out to a therapist and say, this is my goal and I want to help working with. I want to work on it. I want to put time and effort into it weekly over time until I slowly change into something different, something that I want. Psychotherapy can be your best friend in that regard. That's my invitation to high agency people.
Perfect. That's great because, I mean, what I'm hearing is, listen, you can have a similar approach that you have with everything else, which is a structured approach that can yield, measurable and structured results as well. So, I don't think it sounds like too much of an ask or too much of a getting out of the way as to you do things business as usual. It's just more for yourself than say for your, I don't know, for your business or whatever that may be.
I like the way you put that. It's more of a getting out of the way. Yeah. Because again, you don't have to be sick. You just have to recognize that you want to get out of your own way. Very realistically, it is something that you yourself is doing. And if it is something that you want to dig deep in and change, yeah, psychotherapy is great for that. You can't necessarily change the world. You can't change the external world to make your life better. Well, sort of. You can change your immediate environment. I'm getting off my point, but yeah, I think this is probably a good time to end the show.
Right on.
Yeah. Well, Pablo, thank you very much for producing and for the questions. I want to invite everybody again to check out www.thehopewellinstitute.com, join the newsletter, and keep an eye out for the fun things coming with education and course content.
Thank you. And from me, if you're watching this in the future in the recorded format, please give it a like. Subscribe to the channel so you get notified whenever we go live. Hit us with a comment in the section below so that we can maybe read some of your questions in the future. And if you want to participate and send your questions, you can put them in the chat. You can send them on our DMs. You can do it however you want, but we want to hear from you. We
write them down. We will read your questions.
We have some, we love participation, and this only gets better as, and we all get better as more people participate. So thank you, Dr. Perin, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you guys. Take care.